Hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne welcoming you to my channel. Thank you very much for finding me. And if you're new here, I try to grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia without any grow lights or greenhouses or humidifiers, just me and them either inside or outside or not at all. So plant lovers, if that sounds like your kind of conditions, do hit subscribe. I post every Friday. My ramblings are very amateur, but join me so that you too can try and figure out what Matthew's doing wrong or what Matthew is doing right sometimes. Because I have discovered in the great journey of orchid growing, it's all very particular to your own conditions, and in the same city, different people grow things in different ways. So these are the things that have worked or not for me. And one of the things that has worked for me, plant lovers, is joining clubs. And I've mentioned this often, that if you're new to the orchid game or you're unsure or you need advice, trying to find a local club in your area is a great way to find knowledgeable people, understand what you can grow in your area given your conditions, and finding plants, which brings us to the glorious subject of the plants in front of us. Because plant lovers, I have been shopping. Yes, it was the Orchid Species Society of Victoria, which I will link below, annual or biannual plant sale, which was, it sets my heart a pit-a-pat every time, I can't tell you. Amazing sellers, amazing plants that you just don't find in the mainstream. You rarely see on eBay or really anywhere in Australia. It's quite hard to find orchids here, as I know it is in other parts of the world as well now. So one of the reasons you should join a club is because you do get access to amazing plants, either through swaps or sales on nights, or once every 6 months or 12 months, the organization will have a sale. And so I almost didn't go, and then I went and ended up spending a fortune, as one does. But let me go through each one by one and show you just what I bought. You know, when you go into those sales, I don't know, it reminds me of my days in New York at the Prada sample. So you go in and you literally get breathless and think, what am I missing, when you see people coming out with bags? Anyway, the first thing I decided to buy, who knew why, and in fact, perhaps I don't, are more Sarcochilus. Now, Sarcochilus are an Australian native orchid, and I've made many a film about them, which I will link above and below for you. I've got a whole playlist, actually. And Sarcochilus just love my climate. They are native to parts of Australia a bit further north of me. So I'm in Melbourne, and this is an orchid that's really native in the state of New South Wales, which is where Sydney is, and further up into Queensland. So warmer, more subtropical climates. However, they do really well for me here in Melbourne, and we are sort of a temperate, warm temperate climate, or a wet Mediterranean climate. So our winters don't freeze, and generally in the inner city, they don't even get close to freezing. So a perfect climate for Sarcochilus. So an easy orchid to grow. The only thing is, of course, they need winter sun to stimulate their blooms. And these ones were interesting. Now, the sad thing is, well, the great thing, sad thing, these are from an orchid company here in Melbourne called, well, here in Australia, called Mount Benak Orchids, and they are actually in Victoria. The sad thing is they're closing down, as are many specialist growers and orchids. And I was literally just talking to someone about this, that it's sort of a generational thing, and there seems to be fewer and fewer people actually growing orchids and taking up the baton of the older generation as they move on. So it's quite sad to see just a shrinking capacity for us to have variety and newness and people hybridizing, well, in Australia anyway. So quite sad. But I was thrilled that they had a stand there and they were selling Sarcochilus. Now, one of the things about Sarcochilus, this little baby here was a seedling. Now, all of these seedlings were the princely sum of $12. And as you can see, it's got a label here which tells you it's a cross, and it's a new cross. So it's Sarcochilus amber orange crossed with Gabrielle well spotted. Quite an imaginative name, so we're not sure. But one of the things that the grower told me is that the first name is, and I forget if it's the pollen parent anyway, but you tend to get more of the characteristics of the first named parent anyway. So amber orange, it should be amber with a bit of well spotted. Who knows? The thing about buying seedlings though, and new crosses, is that of course you do not know what the flower's going to look like. However, Sarcochilus seedlings will bloom for you really within the second year. They can even bloom in the first year. That plant could bloom if it gets the right conditions. So Tell you what, if it does, I'll make a video about it because we can see just what the flower is going to look like. But then the other Sarcochilus that I bought, not dissimilar in size, as you can see. These are a little more expensive. These are $20 a pop, and I have got 3 of these. There we go. So the difference with these is that these are all divisions, or you could really say pups from a larger plant. So one of the benefits of buying a plant like that is that generally the seller will have a picture of the flowering plant. And this guy, Mount Beanick, had a whole catalogue of numbered images of the blooms, and the number corresponded to the division. So it made it really easy to look for the colour and the form that you want, because, plant lovers, I've discovered I've got a lot of red velvety Sarcochilus, and I wanted a bit more variety, so more yellow orange speckles and some more sort of very interesting pinky white speckles. So those were the sort of flower colours that I was looking for. Anyway, these are all of a size to bloom as well, but I thought I might just show you how easy it is to get these kind of divisions slash pups from a Sarcochilus, because I've got a mature specimen down here. Here we go. Now, this has appeared in many of my Sarcochilus videos. It is a beautiful hybrid, and it is called Sarcochilus elegant Hart. There we are. And I'm just looking at this label. This is from a company called The Hanging Garden, and this is another orchid grower that went out of business, or chose to close up business, late last year. Very, very sad. They were a great grower of Australian natives and ferns, actually. Anyway, I bought this one about 3 years ago from a garden centre, not from the nursery itself, because the flower spike had died. And as we all know, plant lovers, no one will buy an orchid full price with a dead flower spike, so it was discounted. But I had no idea what the flower was. Anyway, it's a beautiful pink speckle. When I bought it, it was basically that size with a single flower spike. So within about 3 years, look at the size of it. They are very, very prodigious growers, these Sarcochilus. And I will come in closely and show you. But what you can see is that it very, very quickly starts to produce multiple growth points from the base. And I will try and come in and show you that in terms of dividing it, it is a very simple slash brutal process that you quite simply pull one off, one of these pups at the side, and it's going to have aerial roots and some roots, pot it on, and there you go. So it's actually quite easy to get yourself this size and form of division from Sarcochilus. Okay, on to the next. And the next is the smallest. Now, I know that might not look much to you. This is an Isochilus aurantiacus, I think is how you pronounce it. Look at that. Hang on, there we go. Now, aurantiaca in Latin means orange, derived from orange, so orange coloured, which might give you an indication. Yes, I was, a couple of years ago now, in a greenhouse of a grower, and it was, well, actually it had several greenhouses, and there was a mature specimen of this covered in the most bright orange flowers, and it blooms from the end of the cane. Well, decided my life wasn't complete. Searched for years and years and years. Well, since I saw it, could never, ever find one. And there it is for the princely sum of $15 at the orchid sale. The great thing was that the grower had a picture of the orange flower nearby. So I immediately knew what it was. And I am just so thrilled and delighted. I'm just looking at that though, thinking, needs some more, needs watering. Don't want that to die on me. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful orchid. Now, this one grows in Central America. It's a species orchid, so it's as it's found in the wild. But I have the more common one here, which is Isochilus. Oh, look at that. Linearis. Ta-da! And I've made a video about this in the past, and this one has beautiful sort of mauve-shaped flowers, and you can see there at the end of each of the canes. And it can flower at any time in the year. It's it grows for me outside all year, so it's a cool grower, dappled light. It's on the shadier side of dapple and likes to be kept moist all the time and can flower at any point. So this one is relatively easy to find, but this one is not. This one's habitat is basically most of South America. It's very, very widespread, whereas this one is more isolated in Central America, further north. Anyway, this one easy-ish to find, the other one not so. All right. Next cab off the rank is a Miltacia, and it is called Goodale Moir Golden Wonder. There we are. And look, there is a picture of it. And you know, Miltacias do reasonably well for me. I just really loved that colorway and I've never seen it before. And look, it's in Spike. So really thrilled to add this Miltacia to my collection. Plant lovers, let me swing that out of the way. This is somewhat of an embarrassment. It's Bulbophyllum and it's rothschildianum. I have my orchid inventory and I have it on my phone and I scrolled down to Bulbophyllum and under R and thought, I'm sure I've got one, but wasn't there. Anyway, bought myself another one for $22. Got home, right in front of me is a Bulbophyllum rothschildianum, so I now have two. Moral of the story, keep your orchid inventory up to date. And I actually had listed it, but at the bottom, because I hadn't finished filling in the details, so it wasn't alphabetized. Now, just because you cannot have enough Cymbidiums, this is a Cymbidium species and it is called Cymbidium eburneum, as you can see there, a very, very lovely delicate white flower. And the grower assured me, even though that does not look like it's a massive plant, it's flowering size. So we shall see when this one comes into bloom. The flowers, which you can't really see from that image, but they have the most beautiful purple flecks on the inside of the flower. And it's native to the sort of the usual environments of most of those species Cymbidium, so that Himalayan area, sort of Nepal, India, into southern China, northern Vietnam, around there, that whole district, which produces some amazing species Cymbidiums. So this one, they're all white with a little bit of pink or purple, and they're all tending to look the same. Anyway, when they're all out, maybe I'll do a species Cymbidium video and we can compare and contrast. But there we go, that one, and that was the princely sum of $30. And just for giggles, another Cymbidium, and this is a species Cymbidium again. It's called floribundum, and this one again, southern China, but not the whole Himalayan area, so it's a bit more of an isolated geographic location for this one. And it has small pendulous flowers in quite a rich sort of mahogany burgundy, and this is a cross though between red abundance and ruby heart, so it is a form of that species one. So we'll see what those flowers look like, but a very, very healthy plant, very strappy, quite small. So these pendulous types of Cymbidiums are often great if you've got a bit of a space issue because they don't grow into massive plants. The leaves won't grow much bigger than this, so it will grow out but not sort of up. Anyway, we'll see what happens, and I'm just looking, lots of old bulbs in there. I'm just trying to see it. Yes, there's old flower spike. So this is a flowering size plant and it was $40, which is fantastic for a flowering size plant. So as you can see, not huge, flowering size, and I'm curious to see what the flowers are like. We are going to have to do a Cymbidium checkup in spring. All right, on to the next. And this one was quite expensive, and my jury is out on this. You know, you just get carried away in the moment and think, yes, I must have it. I can't live without it. Anyway, it's a cross between two species. It's a cross between Dendrobium griffithianum and amabile, which is one of those famous pendulous orchids with the most beautiful pink flowers. And then this one has yellow flowers. It's a cross. No one has got an image of the bloom yet. So we'll have to see. Quite slow growing, but that I would say is flowering size. This was expensive, plant lovers, $65. So we'll have to see if it's worth it. But anyway, I'm kind of into these Himalayan species dendrobiums at the moment, so we'll see if this one decides that this is the year for it to bloom. Okay, Pleurothallis, which I vowed never to buy because they were so dull and the flowers are so boring. But this one, look at that picture. Oh, I judge a book by its cover. It's a pretty flower, so I bought it. And it is Pleurothallis viduata. And it's a very, very pretty flower. So I'm hoping it's just going to offer a little bit more than the other Pleurothallis that I've accidentally bought. One of them I bought thinking it was a Restrepia. Well, it was sold as a Restrepia, and it wasn't. Anyway, this one I think is quite beautiful. And yes, it's a division and there are remnants of flowers in the top of some of the leaves, so we'll see. Pleurothallis are that sort of odd type of orchid that blooms just from the leaf bracket at the top there. Yes, so we'll see. I'm hopeful that this flower is as pretty as the picture. And this is one of those Ecuadorian high altitude misty forest plants. And the other thing about this, that the flower comes on a stem that's actually quite long. So the flower sort of dangles and it's a bit more visible. So I'm hopeful that it's going to be a stunning plant when it blooms. Anyway, plant lovers, I will keep you fully abreast of developments of this when/if it blooms. Next up, because I've had one success with Lycaste, I've now decided that I can grow Lycaste. This one is a cross between campbellii and skinneri. Now, skinneri is a beautiful, sorry, let me show you that properly. Skinneri is a very, very beautiful species. It's pink, I think, from memory. And the other one, campbellii, is yellow, you know, golden yellow, as many of them are. Now, I bloomed odorata, which I made a video about, which I was excited about. This one, as you can see, very beautiful plant. Definitely flowering size, I would say. We've got 3 old pseudobulbs here. Remember, the tops are very, very, very sharp. So this is a deciduous type of orchid, but when it drops its leaves, this point here has 2 prongs, which are like sharp canine teeth. Very, very pointy and sharp. So do be careful. Anyway, that is a very handsome plant. So Lycastes need bright indirect light to get them going, and can bloom sort of in late spring, summer now, which is autumn here in Australia. I just visited the most amazing orchid house because I'm hoping to make a film there, and the grower had some beautiful Lycastes in bloom. So we'll see. Anyway, very happy with that one. Curious to see what that cross might look like. And now here we are with another Dendrobium, and this one is Dendrobium Jonesy Eye. Now, what I have discovered about this, it's an Australian native, but it's a northern native. So it's from tropical Australia, and plant lovers, I'm not in the tropics. So this is going to have to be an indoor Dendrobium. Problem is, of course, it's going to need strong light to bloom. This could be problematic for me to be able to bring it indoors in winter to give it enough light to stimulate the blooming. However, as you can see, it's got the most fabulous new growth coming up there. It is a white sort of feathery flower, which is very, very beautiful. Anyway, I'm not quite sure that I'm going to have much luck with this, but I'm sure it'll live. The question is, of course, will it bloom? It will just need strong light and warmth. What did I say in my introduction? Cold, cool, intermediate, and this is a warm grower. Don't be seduced by pretty pictures, plant lovers. It will always be your downfall. Now, the next orchid I actually didn't get from that orchid plant fair. I got from a different plant fair, which was the weekend after, which was really rare plants. But it just so happens that Jane Tonkin, who I made a video about because she is an amazing grower of Pleurothallis orchids and other terrestrial orchids. I made a video which I'll link. So Jane was there, and she had this beauty, which is a Spiranthes odorata, which is, it's a rather faded label, I'm afraid, which is a terrestrial native of the United States, which I'm sure many of my American viewers will be familiar with. Anyway, it's a terrestrial orchid. It likes morning sun, dappled light, not an orchid that wants to dry out. So it's sort of more of a moisty, sort of meadowy, riverbanky kind of orchid. Anyway, I'm going to have a go at this, keeping it as moist as I can. Beautiful flower spikes, so we'll see if that continues. If it does survive and open, I'll make a short with it, but very beautiful. I'm sort of loving these terrestrials. I've got a couple of African terrestrials which do a similar thing, and Australian ones, so we'll see how I go with all of these. Anyway, that one was beautiful, and it was the princely sum of $20. Fabulous. Never seen this before anywhere else in Australia either being offered, so very excited about that. So there we are, plant lovers. I don't know how many I bought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 orchids. Oh my goodness. And I have dutifully entered them into my orchid inventory. So I now know what I've got. So I don't do the old double up thing anyway. So Bulbophyllum, rothschildianum. Still, one of the things about having 2 plants is that you can kind of experiment in conditions. So if one is not doing well in one spot, or it might just be thriving, not flowering, you can try the second one in a different spot, which might have more light, or might be higher up, or more breeze, or more water, or less water. Anyway, you can experiment and see, because nothing ventured, nothing gained. Anyway, here is this one. I'm going to repot it, and I might actually just put this somewhere completely different and not give it that much attention, I've decided. But anyway, plant lovers, Again, moral of the story is join a club. You'll get access to the most amazing plant sales if you're lucky. And well, particularly in Australia, it's one of the only places to try and find things that are a little unusual, that aren't just Oncidium hybrids or Cymbidium hybrids, because that's generally all that you find, or Phalaenopsis in most garden centres and nurseries in Australia. So it's a great way to find unusual things. So plant lovers, Google away, find an orchid group near you, join it, and then ask them when their next plant sale is. So for my new purchases and me, thank you very much for finding me. Do hit subscribe if you like this. I post every week, very amateur ramblings. We might do some catches up with some of these down the track. But plant lovers, wherever you are, I hope you've managed to find yourself something orchidy and lovely to keep you warm at night. But until next week, I look forward to seeing you then. So take care. Bye.